Looks like someone's yoga instructor got lost on her way to Pilates class.
Sergeant Knox Garrett's voice boomed across the Naval Special Warfare Center training yard. His phone held high as 4,200 live viewers watched him zoom in on the small woman with striking neon blue hair. The morning California sun caught the deep V-neck of her military green shirt as she stood perfectly still among the concrete barriers and rope climbing stations. Knox towered over her at 6'4", his desert camouflage stretching tight across massive shoulders, built from a decade of SEAL training. His cruel grin widened as the comments exploded across his live stream, laughing emojis and fire symbols flooding the screen faster than he could read them. Seriously though, who authorized Bring Your Sister to Work Day? Lieutenant Wade Brennan called out from the observation platform, his voice dripping with the kind of authority that comes from never being challenged. 20 elite SEALs gathered around the training course erupted in laughter, their boots scraping against the asphalt as they moved closer for a better view. The woman they were mocking, Sage Holloway, according to her visitor badge, remained motionless. Her blue eyes swept the combat course with an odd intensity, cataloging exit points and weapon positions with the kind of systematic awareness that only Master Chief Flynn Torres seemed to notice. "Hope you brought your yoga mat, Princess," Petty Officer Jace Carver sneered, stepping forward with the confidence of someone who'd never met his match. This isn't exactly a meditation retreat, but in exactly 14 minutes, when those worn brown combat boots moved with lethal precision and that torn military green shirt revealed what lay beneath, every single man on that training ground would understand they had just witnessed the most dangerous mistake of their military careers. The sprawling complex of Naval Special Warfare Center Coronado had witnessed countless moments of triumph and humiliation, but the morning of October 15th would be remembered differently. Knox adjusted his phone angle, catching the perfect shot of Sage standing isolated among the towering concrete structures designed to simulate urban warfare environments. His live stream had exploded beyond his wildest expectations, transforming from routine training documentation into viral entertainment that promised authentic military drama. "Check this out, everyone," Knox narrated to his growing audience, his voice carrying the theatrical confidence of someone performing for applause. "We've got ourselves a real-life diversity hire trying to play with the big boys." The comments section erupted with fire emojis and laughing faces, viewers sharing the stream across social media platforms, hungry for content that felt raw and unfiltered. Sage's visitor badge fluttered slightly in the ocean breeze that swept across the training facility. The laminated card read, "Consultant, Observational Assessment," in standard military typeface, but Knox had already decided what story he wanted to tell his audience. This wasn't about legitimate military business. This was about entertainment value, and nothing entertained quite like watching someone clearly out of their depth get humbled by reality. "I'm streaming this live to my followers," Knox announced loudly, making sure Sage could hear every word. They love seeing what real SEAL training looks like, not whatever watered-down version you probably saw in some recruitment commercial. His phone captured every angle as he circled her like a predator sizing up prey, the camera lens reflecting the harsh morning sunlight. Wade Brennan descended from the observation platform with the measured steps of someone accustomed to commanding attention. At 32, he carried himself with the kind of authority that came from years of successful operations and the political savvy to advance through military ranks faster than his peers. His uniform was pressed to regulation perfection, every crease sharp enough to cut glass, every ribbon and badge positioned with mathematical precision. "Gentlemen," Wade's voice carried across the training yard with practiced authority, "it appears we have a visitor who might benefit from understanding what actual military standards look like." He approached Sage with the kind of slow deliberation designed to maximize psychological pressure, each step calculated to demonstrate the vast gulf between civilian consultation and warrior reality. The circle of SEALs tightened instinctively, their bodies forming a natural amphitheater around the developing confrontation. These were men forged in the crucible of the world's most demanding military training, their confidence earned through years of pushing beyond human limitations. They had faced enemy fire in distant theaters, conducted operations that existed only in classified files, and emerged stronger from every challenge. To them, Sage represented everything soft about civilian oversight, theoretical knowledge without the steel of real-world testing. Jace Carver stepped forward from the crowd, and something shifted in the atmosphere. Unlike Knox's theatrical cruelty or Wade's institutional arrogance, Jace's approach carried personal weight. His angular face showed traces of recognition, as if he was looking at someone from a different life, a different version of himself that he'd rather forget. Well, well, Jace's voice carried a tone that mixed familiarity with disappointment. If it isn't Sage Holloway. Though I guess you're going by consultant now instead of washout. The words hit differently than the other's generic mockery. This felt personal, targeted, designed to wound in ways that only someone with intimate knowledge could achieve. Sage's expression remained perfectly neutral, but Master Chief Torres noticed the slight tightening around her eyes. At 53, Torres had spent 3 decades reading people in situations where misunderstanding meant death. He recognized the controlled stillness of someone managing internal tension, the kind of disciplined emotional regulation that came from extensive training in high-stress environments. You two know each other? Knox's entrepreneurial instincts immediately sensed enhanced entertainment value. This just gets better and better. Jace, tell us about your friend here. Jace's smile carried no warmth, only the satisfied cruelty of someone about to expose another person's failures. We went through selection together about 5 years ago. Different program, but same facility. Sage here lasted exactly 6 weeks before she couldn't handle the pressure. He paused, letting the revelation sink in for both the assembled SEALs and Knox's livestream audience. Funny how some people keep showing up in military spaces even after they have proven they don't belong. The lie was expertly crafted, containing just enough military terminology to sound authentic, while providing the narrative framework Knox's audience craved. Sage had become the perfect victim, someone who had failed at military service but continued to insert herself into spaces reserved for actual warriors. The story practically wrote itself. Knox's phone camera captured every moment as he moved closer to Sage, his massive frame deliberately positioned to emphasize the size difference. So you're telling me this little princess actually tried to make it through military training? His voice rose with theatrical disbelief. And she still has the nerve to show up here pretending to evaluate real operators? The morning sun climbed higher, casting sharp shadows across the training facility as the confrontation developed its own momentum. What had started as casual mockery was evolving into something more systematic, more cruel. Knox's livestream viewership had doubled, then tripled, as viewers shared the content across social media platforms. The comments section had become a flood of encouragement for escalation, anonymous voices demanding more humiliation, more entertainment. Show us what you learned in washout school, Wade commanded, his voice carrying official authority. Since you're here to observe our training standards, maybe you should demonstrate your own. The challenge was designed to be impossible. Either Sage would refuse and confirm her inadequacy, or she would attempt something beyond her capabilities and fail publicly. Torres found himself studying Sage's posture with professional interest. She stood with her weight evenly distributed, shoulders relaxed but ready, hands loose at her sides. It was the stance of someone comfortable with physical confrontation, not the nervous tension he would expect from a civilian consultant facing military harassment. Something about her positioning reminded him of operators he'd known, the kind of people who could explode into action from apparent stillness. "I'm here to observe," Sage said quietly, her voice barely audible over the growing crowd noise. "Not participate." The words were carefully chosen, neither defensive nor confrontational, giving no ammunition for further provocation while maintaining professional distance. Knox laughed loudly, playing to his audience both physical and digital. Translation: she knows she can't hang with real warriors. He turned his phone to capture his own face, addressing his viewers directly. This is exactly what's wrong with military oversight today. People who couldn't cut it, trying to tell actual operators how to do their jobs. The crowd of SEALs pressed closer, their collective energy feeding off Knox's performance and Wade's institutional backing. These were men accustomed to respect, to being recognized as elite among elites. The presence of someone they perceived as a failed civilian consultant felt like an insult to everything they had sacrificed to achieve. Jace produced a worn baseball club from his gearbox, tossing it carelessly at Sage's feet. "Pick it up," he ordered, his voice carrying the weight of old grievances. "Show some respect when real operators are talking to you." The gesture was calculated humiliation, designed to force her into a position of subservience while providing visual entertainment for Knox's camera. Sage knelt slowly to retrieve the cap, her movements controlled and precise. Torres noticed how she maintained awareness of everyone's position, even while focused on the simple task, her peripheral vision tracking potential threats with the kind of systematic scanning that suggested extensive training in situational awareness. Her fingers handled the cap with unnecessary care, as if she were field stripping sensitive equipment rather than picking up discarded headgear. I can already feel the tension building, and I know you're getting invested in Sage's story. If you're curious about what happens when these SEALs realize who they're really dealing with, smash that like button right now. Trust me, the next few minutes are going to completely blow your mind, so don't even think about clicking away. The baseball cap felt heavier than it should in Sage's hands, weighted with implications beyond its physical presence. As she stood, brushing dust from the fabric with movements that spoke of practiced precision, something in her demeanor had shifted. The change was subtle but unmistakable to anyone trained to read human behavior under stress. Where moments before she had seemed passive, now there was a quality of controlled readiness, like a coiled spring waiting for the right moment to release. Knox's live stream had become a phenomenon in real time, his viewer count climbing past 6,000 as people shared the content across military-focused social media groups. The comments section had evolved from simple entertainment into something darker, with viewers actively encouraging more aggressive confrontation. Anonymous voices demanded escalation, suggesting increasingly humiliating challenges for the woman who dared to enter their sacred space. You know what I think? Wade's voice carried across the training yard with the confidence of someone who had never been proven wrong in public. I think our consultant here needs a real demonstration of what SEAL training actually involves, not the sanitized version they probably showed her in whatever diversity seminar she attended. The suggestion landed among the assembled SEALs like gasoline on smoldering coals. These were men who had survived selection processes designed to break human will, who had proven themselves in combat zones where hesitation meant death. The idea that someone who had failed military training was now positioned to evaluate their performance felt like a fundamental violation of natural order. Absolutely, Knox agreed, adjusting his phone angle to capture the perfect shot of what he sensed would be spectacular entertainment. Let's give our audience a real comparison between civilian consultants and actual warriors. His voice carried the infectious enthusiasm of someone who had found the perfect content formula, authentic military drama with clear heroes and villains. Jay stepped forward, his expression mixing personal satisfaction with professional obligation. Since Sage and I have history, maybe I should explain exactly what kind of observer we're dealing with. He addressed his comments directly to Knox's camera, understanding instinctively how to maximize impact for digital consumption. 5 years ago, this woman lasted exactly 6 weeks in a specialized training program before she broke under pressure, Jace continued, his voice carrying the weight of supposed first-hand knowledge. Couldn't handle the physical demands, couldn't handle the mental stress, couldn't handle the reality of what military service actually requires. But somehow, she keeps showing up in military facilities, pretending to have expertise she never earned. The narrative was expertly constructed, containing enough specific details to sound authentic, while providing the perfect framework for escalating humiliation. Sage had been transformed from anonymous consultant into failed wannabe, someone whose very presence insulted the achievements of legitimate warriors. Torres found himself increasingly uncomfortable with the developing situation, but military hierarchy constrained his options for intervention. Wade's rank gave him authority over the training exercise, and Knox's political connections within the command structure made direct confrontation potentially career-threatening. Still, something about Sage's controlled responses suggested depths that the others were failing to recognize. The morning heat was building as the sun climbed higher, but the temperature of the confrontation was rising faster than the ambient air. Knox's theatrical instincts told him that he was approaching the moment when entertainment would transition into viral content, the kind of spectacular humiliation that would generate massive engagement across social media platforms. "Here's what's going to happen," Wade announced, his voice carrying official authority. "Our consultant is going to demonstrate her qualifications by participating in a basic equipment familiarity exercise. Nothing dangerous, nothing beyond what any legitimate military advisor should be able to handle." The challenge was carefully worded to sound reasonable while being designed for public failure. A basic M4 rifle was retrieved from the equipment rack, its polymer frame marked with bright red tape indicating training ammunition only. The weapon was standard issue for most special operations units. familiar to anyone with legitimate military experience but complex enough to expose civilian pretenders. Wade held it with casual expertise, his grip and stance demonstrating years of professional familiarity. Simple demonstration, Wade explained to Knox's camera, playing to the digital audience that had become as important as the physical one. Field strip this weapon, identify the major components, reassemble under time pressure, basic stuff that anyone consulting on military training should know instinctively. Sage accepted the rifle with movements that surprised Torres with their confidence. Her grip was immediately correct, finger properly positioned outside the trigger guard, muzzle oriented in a safe direction. These were automatic responses that suggested extensive handling experience, not the tentative fumbling he would expect from a civilian consultant. 30 seconds, Wade announced, producing a tactical stopwatch with theatrical flourish. That's generous time for anyone with actual military training. Of course, if you're not comfortable handling weapons, you can always admit that you're not qualified to be here. The challenge was perfectly constructed. Either Sage would fail publicly, confirming her inadequacy, or she would refuse and acknowledge her limitations. Both outcomes served the narrative that Knox's audience craved. What none of them anticipated was a third possibility. Sage's hands moved across the weapon with fluid precision that spoke of muscle memory rather than conscious thought. The safety selector was engaged, the magazine removed, the charging handle manipulated to clear the chamber. Each movement was economical and confident, performed without the hesitation that would mark someone unfamiliar with the equipment. Knox's camera captured every moment as Sage began the field stripping process, with movements that looked suspiciously professional. Her fingers found the takedown pins without visual reference, manipulating them with the kind of practiced ease that came from extensive repetition. The bolt carrier group came free smoothly, followed by the firing pin and bolt in sequence. Interesting technique, Torres muttered, loud enough for nearby SEALs to hear. His own experience told him that Sage's weapon handling demonstrated familiarity that went far beyond basic training. The speed and confidence of her movements suggested someone who had performed this task hundreds, possibly thousands of times. 28 seconds later, Sage had completed the field stripping process and begun reassembly with the same fluid efficiency. Her hands worked without conscious guidance, muscle memory directing each movement with precision that spoke of extensive training and regular practice. The weapon came together with mechanical clicks that sounded sharp in the suddenly quiet training yard. 14 seconds, Wade announced, his voice carrying less confidence than before. Under time, technically correct assembly. He had expected public failure, not competent performance that raised uncomfortable questions about his initial assumptions. Knox's livestream audience was beginning to voice different opinions in the comments section. While many continued to demand escalation, others were noting the apparent competence of the woman they had been encouraged to mock. The narrative was becoming more complex than simple civilian humiliation, and Knox sensed he needed to regain control of the story. "Lucky guess," Knox declared to his camera, dismissing the demonstration with forced confidence. "Anyone can memorize a procedure without understanding real applications. Let's see how our consultant handles actual pressure situations." But Torres was studying Sage with new interest, his professional instincts triggered by subtle indicators that others were missing. The way she had handled the weapon suggested not just familiarity, but extensive specialized training. Her movements had contained elements of advanced techniques that most infantry soldiers never learned, methods specific to special operations applications. When situations escalate beyond control, Sage utilized her specially reinforced tactical smartphone, featuring military-grade encryption and satellite connectivity, ensuring secure communications even in remote training facilities. This advanced technology enabled encrypted data transmission under any conditions, with a sapphire-reinforced screen and battery lasting 72 continuous hours in extreme environments like extended SEAL operations. The demonstration had shifted the dynamic subtly but significantly. What had been straightforward mockery was evolving into something more complex, with questions beginning to surface among the assembled SEALs about the accuracy of their initial assumptions. Sage's competent weapon handling had introduced doubt into what should have been simple civilian humiliation. Jace sensed the narrative slipping away from the clean storyline he had established and moved to reassert control. "Don't let her fool you," he announced loudly, addressing both the physical crowd and Knox's digital audience. "Memorizing procedures doesn't make you an operator. Real military service requires more than technical knowledge." The comment was designed to minimize Sage's demonstration, while redirecting attention back to his supposed personal knowledge of her failures. But Torres noticed something in Jace's expression that suggested his confidence was not as solid as his words implied. There had been a moment of uncertainty when Sage's hands moved across the weapon with obviously professional competence. Wade recognized that he needed to escalate the challenge to maintain his authority and the entertainment value that Knox's audience demanded. Weapons familiarity is basic requirement, he announced. Real evaluation requires understanding of tactical applications under stress conditions. The suggestion carried ominous implications that made Torres increasingly uncomfortable with the direction of the confrontation. These were trained killers operating in a facility designed for combat preparation, and their collective energy was building towards something potentially dangerous. The combination of wounded pride, public humiliation, and competitive masculinity was creating a volatile mixture that could explode beyond anyone's control. Knox's live stream had become the focal point for the developing drama, his phone camera serving as both witness and catalyst for escalating confrontation. The digital audience had grown past 7,000 viewers, with comments flooding in faster than anyone could read. The viral nature of the content was feeding back into the physical situation, encouraging more spectacular entertainment for public consumption. "I've got an idea," Knox announced to his audience, his voice carrying the enthusiasm of someone who had found the perfect angle for maximum engagement. "Our consultant claims to be here for observational assessment. Let's see how she handles observing real operator training from inside the exercise." The suggestion was presented as reasonable evaluation, but designed as sophisticated humiliation. By positioning Sage as a participant rather than observer, Knox could create content that showed civilian inadequacy against military excellence, while maintaining plausible deniability about his intentions. The plot is thickening, and I can see you're hooked on this incredible story. If you want to see how this confrontation escalates, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You absolutely don't want to miss what happens next. The training facility seemed to contract around the developing confrontation as more personnel were drawn to the spectacle. Word had spread through the complex with the speed that only military gossip could achieve, bringing curious faces to windows and walkways overlooking the main training yard. What had started as routine morning exercises was transforming into the kind of dramatic entertainment that would be discussed in mess halls for months. Master Chief Torres made a decision that would prove more significant than anyone present could imagine. Moving with the purposeful stride of someone accustomed to command authority, he approached the secure tablet mounted near the observation platform. His fingers moved across the screen with practiced efficiency, accessing databases that existed behind multiple layers of security clearance. "Let me run a background check," Torres announced, his voice carrying the weight of 3 decades in special operations. "If we're going to evaluate someone's qualifications, we should at least verify their credentials through official channels." The statement was presented as reasonable due diligence, but carried implications that made several people uncomfortable. Knox's entrepreneurial instincts immediately recognized the entertainment potential in official documentation. "Absolutely," he agreed enthusiastically, turning his phone camera toward Torres. "Let's see what the official records say about our consultant's qualifications." Full transparency for the audience. Wade's expression showed the first traces of uncertainty, as he realized the situation was moving beyond his direct control. Background checks through official military databases could reveal information that might complicate the narrative he had been constructing, but backing down now would appear weak in front of Knox's massive audience and his own subordinates. Sage remained perfectly still as Torres input search parameters into the classified system, her blue eyes tracking the movements of everyone present with the kind of systematic awareness that suggested extensive training and threat assessment. Her posture had not changed, but something in her presence felt different, as if she were transitioning from passive observation to active readiness. The database search began with standard military personnel records, cross-referencing multiple identification systems to compile comprehensive background information. Torres expected to find either civilian consultant credentials or possibly basic military service that would explain Sage's weapon familiarity. What the system began to return was neither of those possibilities. "Interesting," Torres muttered, his voice barely audible as preliminary results appeared on the screen. The information was heavily redacted, with multiple classification levels restricting access to most details. But even the limited data that was visible suggested complexities that contradicted everything they had assumed about Sage's background. Knox moved closer to the tablet, his camera attempting to capture the screen contents for his live stream audience. "What did you find? Come on, Master Chief, share with the class. My viewers want to know what we're dealing with here." Torres paused, studying the partial information with the careful attention of someone who understood the implications of classified material. The records showed service history that extended back several years, with deployment notations that carried the kind of security classifications associated with special operations units. But the specific details remained locked behind access restrictions that his clearance level could not penetrate. "The records show military service," Torres announced carefully, his voice neutral but carrying undertones that suggested significance beyond the simple statement. "But most of the details are classified above my access level. That's unusual for standard personnel files." The revelation hit the assembled crowd like a physical shock, disrupting the comfortable narrative they had constructed around Sage's supposed civilian inadequacy. Knox's live stream audience exploded with speculation and demands for more information, the comments section becoming a flood of questions and conspiracy theories. Jace's expression showed the first cracks in his confident facade as he processed the implications of Torres' discovery. His story about shared selection experiences was beginning to look less reliable in light of official documentation that suggested depths to Sage's background that he had not acknowledged. "Classified records don't mean anything," Wade declared, his voice carrying forced authority as he attempted to maintain control of the narrative. "Lots of people have security clearances for administrative reasons. It doesn't prove operational qualifications or combat experience." But the dynamic had shifted fundamentally with the introduction of official documentation that contradicted their assumptions. What had been simple civilian mockery was evolving into something more complex, with questions about identity and background that demanded serious consideration. Knox recognized that his content was transitioning from entertainment into potentially sensitive territory involving classified military information. His live stream had grown past 8,000 viewers, but he was beginning to understand that some stories carried risks beyond social media backlash. "Maybe we should continue this conversation somewhere more private," Knox suggested, his phone camera still recording, but his voice carrying less theatrical confidence than before. "Some information might not be appropriate for public broadcast." Torres shook his head, his expression showing the gravity of someone who understood classification protocols. "The search triggered automatic security notifications," he explained. "Command personnel have been alerted to the inquiry. We need to maintain current positions until they arrive." The statement landed among the assembled SEALs like a cold splash of reality, transforming their competitive entertainment into potential security incident with career implications. What had started as harmless harassment was evolving into official military business that could affect clearances, promotions, and future assignments. Sage spoke for the first time since the background check began, her voice quiet but carrying across the suddenly silent training yard. "I tried to avoid this," she said, addressing no one in particular. "Some things are better left undisturbed." The comment carried implications that made everyone present reassess their understanding of the situation. Her tone suggested not the desperate deflection of someone caught in lies, but the resigned acceptance of someone who had hoped to avoid unwanted attention. Knox's phone captured every word as Sage continued, her blue eyes meeting his camera lens directly. "But since we're here, you might want to consider that appearances can be deceiving, especially in environments where deception is a professional requirement. Professional military contractors like Sage require comprehensive liability coverage and specialized insurance policies that protect against high-risk operational scenarios. Elite personnel need financial planning services that understand the unique challenges of classified work, including asset protection strategies and emergency funding access for rapid deployment situations requiring immediate capital mobilization." The cryptic statement hung in the air like smoke from a distant explosion, carrying implications that no one present was quite prepared to process. Torres found himself studying Sage with new intensity, his experienced eye noting details that had been invisible when he was looking for civilian inadequacy instead of operator competence. Her stance was perfect for rapid movement in any direction, weight balanced and ready. Her awareness of the environment was systematic and comprehensive, tracking potential threats and escape routes with the kind of automatic scanning that suggested extensive hostile environment training. Even her breathing was controlled, in a way that spoke of stress inoculation and combat preparation. The sound of approaching vehicles broke the tense silence that had settled over the training yard. Multiple Humvees were converging on their position from different directions, their movement coordinated in a way that suggested official response rather than routine transportation. The vehicles carried the kind of antenna arrays and communication equipment associated with command and control functions. "Holy cow," Knox breathed, his camera capturing the approaching convoy. "This is getting real fast." His livestream audience was exploding with excitement and speculation, the viewer count climbing past 9,000 as word spread across social media platforms about dramatic developments at a military training facility. Wade's expression showed increasing concern as he recognized the vehicles and their implications. Command response to routine training incidents was unusual, suggesting that Torres' database search had triggered protocols reserved for significant security events. His authority over the situation was about to be superseded by personnel with much higher clearance levels and broader authority. The lead vehicle stopped precisely 50 feet from the assembled group, its positioning deliberate and tactically sound. The occupants remained inside for several moments, conducting communications through encrypted channels before emerging with the kind of coordinated movement that spoke of extensive training and serious purpose. Captain Reed Morrison stepped out of the lead vehicle wearing service dress blues that looked like they had been pressed 5 minutes earlier. At 47, he carried himself with the assured competence of someone who had commanded men in combat and made decisions where hesitation meant casualties. His ribbons and badges told a story of decorated service in multiple theaters, but it was his expression that commanded immediate attention. Morrison's eyes swept the assembled group with tactical assessment, noting positions, weapon status, and threat levels in seconds. When his gaze settled on Sage, something shifted in his demeanor that was visible to everyone present. The change was subtle but unmistakable. Surprise, recognition, and something approaching concern. "Master Chief Torres," Morrison's voice carried across the training yard with parade ground authority. "Report on the situation that triggered security protocols." The question was directed to Torres, but his eyes remained fixed on Sage, as if he were seeing someone he had not expected to encounter in this context. Torres straightened it to attention, his response crisp and professional. "Sir, conducted routine background verification on consultant personnel during training observation duties. Database search returned classified information above my access level, triggering automatic security notifications." Morrison nodded, processing the information while maintaining his focus on Sage. "And the consultant in question?" His voice carried careful neutrality, but undertones suggested significance beyond routine administrative inquiry. "Present and accounted for, sir," Torres responded, gesturing towards Sage. "Individual has remained cooperative throughout the process." Knox's phone continued recording, capturing every moment of the official response for his fascinated audience. The live stream had become appointment viewing for thousands of people who sensed they were witnessing something unprecedented in military social media content. Morrison approached Sage with measured steps, his movement controlled and respectful, in a way that contrasted sharply with the aggressive posturing that had characterized the earlier confrontation. When he stopped 3 feet away, his posture was formal but not threatening, suggesting professional recognition rather than disciplinary authority. "Ma'am," Morrison said, his voice carrying genuine respect, "I believe we need to discuss your presence here through appropriate channels. This situation has moved beyond routine training observation." The formal address landed among the assembled SEALs like a thunderclap, forcing them to reassess everything they thought they understood about the woman they had been mocking. Morrison was not treating Sage like a civilian consultant or failed military washout, but like someone deserving of official respect and careful handling. Sage met Morrison's gaze steadily, her blue eyes showing neither defiance nor submission, but calm acceptance of changed circumstances. "Captain," she acknowledged, her voice carrying a tone that suggested familiarity with military protocol and command structures. "I understand, though I had hoped to complete the assessment without requiring official intervention." The exchange revealed depths to the situation that no one present had anticipated. Morrison's respectful approach and Sage's comfortable response to military formality suggested relationships and background that contradicted every assumption that had driven the morning's entertainment. "This is getting intense, and I know you're wondering what that wolf tattoo really means." Show some love with a like if you're as shocked as I am. The reveal that's coming will change everything you think you know about Sage. Knox's livestream audience was reaching fever pitch as they processed the dramatic shift in dynamics. Comments flooded in demanding explanations, with speculation ranging from undercover federal agents to classified military operations. The simple story of civilian humiliation had evolved into something far more complex and potentially significant. Morrison turned to address the assembled SEALs, his voice carrying command authority that made immediate attention automatic. "This training exercise is suspended pending security review," he announced. "All personnel will remain available for debriefing as required. Recording devices will be secured through appropriate channels." The order sent shockwaves through Knox's digital audience as they realized their entertainment was about to be terminated by official military action. Knox himself looked conflicted between his desire to continue broadcasting and his understanding that defying direct military orders could have serious consequences. "Sir," Knox ventured carefully, "my live stream has over 9,000 viewers. This content is already public through social media platforms. Terminating now might create more attention than allowing controlled conclusion." Morrison considered the statement with the practical wisdom of someone who understood modern information warfare. "Your broadcast device will be secured," he decided, "but the content already transmitted remains in public domain. That situation will be addressed through appropriate channels." Wade found himself in the uncomfortable position of watching his authority evaporate in real time. The training exercise that was supposed to demonstrate SEAL superiority had become a security incident involving classified personnel and command intervention. His career prospects were beginning to look significantly less promising. Jace's expression showed increasing concern as he realized the implications of Morrison's presence and official response. His story about shared selection experiences with Sage was beginning to look not just inaccurate, but potentially fabricated, with consequences that could extend far beyond embarrassment. Torres approached Morrison with the respectful deference appropriate to their rank differential. "Sir, the consultant demonstrated advanced weapons familiarity during basic proficiency evaluation. Performance levels suggested specialized training beyond standard military protocols." Morrison nodded, unsurprised by the information. "Understood, Master Chief. Your observation confirms other indicators that triggered our response." His voice carried implications that suggested the situation was developing according to patterns he recognized and had been prepared to address. The morning sun had climbed higher, casting different shadows across the training facility as the confrontation evolved beyond anyone's original expectations. What had started as casual mockery was becoming official military business with potential implications that extended far beyond routine training exercises. Advanced Tactical Training certification programs offer specialized courses in close quarters combat, weapons proficiency, and strategic operations analysis. These elite educational institutions provide classified curriculum designed for military professionals seeking advancement in special operations fields, including legal consultation services for personnel operating under complex jurisdictional requirements and security clearance protocols. Sage stood quietly as the official machinery of military bureaucracy began to process the situation around her. Her presence had transformed from passive observation to the focal point of security protocols that suggested her background contained elements far more significant than anyone had initially understood. Morrison produced a secure communication device from his equipment, initiating contact with higher command authority through encrypted channels. His conversation was brief and professional, conducted in the kind of careful language that avoided specifics while conveying essential information to properly cleared personnel. "Understood," Morrison concluded the call, his expression showing the gravity of someone who had received significant guidance from superior authority. "All personnel will be debriefed individually through appropriate channels. This incident has implications beyond local command authority." The statement confirmed what several people were beginning to suspect, that Sage's presence at the training facility was connected to operations or missions that extended far beyond routine consultation. The casual mockery that had seemed so entertaining was revealing itself as potentially serious interference with classified military activities. Knox's phone was confiscated with professional efficiency by personnel who understood digital forensics and information security. His live stream had ended abruptly, leaving thousands of viewers with questions that would fuel speculation and conspiracy theories across social media platforms for weeks. But the real drama was just beginning to unfold as Morrison turned his attention back to Sage, his expression showing the complex mixture of respect and concern appropriate to someone whose cover had been compromised by circumstances beyond their control. "Ma'am," Morrison said formally, "I believe the situation requires immediate consultation with higher authority. Your assessment mission may need significant revision given current circumstances." Sage nodded, her acceptance of the situation suggesting familiarity with operational security protocols and mission adaptation procedures. "Understood, Captain, though the intelligence gathered during observation phase may still prove valuable despite exposure complications." The exchange confirmed what Torres had begun to suspect, that Sage's presence at the facility was related to intelligence gathering or security assessment rather than routine consultation. Her comfortable use of operational terminology and Morrison's respectful deference suggested background and authority that no one present had been prepared to encounter. The assembled SEALs found themselves witnesses to developments that were clearly beyond their security clearance level and understanding. What had seemed like harmless entertainment was revealing itself as potential interference with classified operations, conducted by personnel whose existence and activities were protected by layers of official secrecy. Wade realized that his authority over the training exercise had been completely superseded by events beyond his control or understanding. Morrison's presence and the official response protocols suggested that the situation had implications that reached far above local command structures into the classified world of special operations and intelligence activities. As additional vehicles arrived and more personnel with higher clearance levels took control of the situation, one thing became clear to everyone present. They had been profoundly wrong about almost everything they thought that they understood about Sage Holloway and her reasons for being at their facility. The morning that had started with casual mockery and live stream entertainment was evolving into something far more serious, with potential consequences that none of them had been prepared to consider. And at the center of it all stood the small woman with neon blue hair, whose quiet competence and mysterious background had shattered every assumption they had made about civilian consultants and military oversight. But the most dramatic revelations were still to come, as circumstances beyond anyone's control were about to force the exposure of secrets that had been carefully protected for years. The real story of Sage Holloway was about to begin, and it would prove far more extraordinary than anything Knox's audience could have imagined when they tuned in for simple military entertainment. The secure perimeter that Morrison's team established around the training facility created an atmosphere of controlled tension that was palpable to everyone present. Additional personnel continued arriving in unmarked vehicles, their movements coordinated with the precision of a well-rehearsed operation. These were not routine military police or standard security personnel, but specialists whose very presence suggested that the situation had escalated far beyond normal training incidents. Sage remained positioned near the center of the expanding security cordon, her posture unchanged despite the dramatic transformation of her circumstances. Her blue eyes continued their systematic scanning of the environment, but now her awareness seemed focused on the new arrivals rather than the SEALs who had been tormenting her. Something in her demeanor had shifted subtly but significantly, as if she were transitioning from defensive posture to operational readiness. Morrison approached her with the careful respect of someone who understood they were dealing with classified personnel whose exact status remained unclear. "Ma'am, I need to conduct a preliminary assessment before higher authority arrives," he said formally. "Would you be willing to provide basic confirmation of your operational status?" The request was phrased as a question, but both Morrison and Sage understood it carried the weight of official necessity. Her response would determine how the expanding security situation would be managed and what protocols would govern the investigation that was clearly about to begin. "Captain," Sage replied, her voice carrying a tone of professional resignation, "my operational status is classified above your current access level, but I can confirm that my presence here relates to ongoing security assessment activities authorized through appropriate channels." The careful phrasing revealed nothing specific, while confirming everything Morrison needed to know about the general nature of the situation. Sage was not a civilian consultant who had stumbled into military harassment, but an operational asset whose mission had been compromised by circumstances beyond anyone's control. Knox, his phone now confiscated and his live stream terminated, found himself facing the reality that his entertainment venture had intersected with serious military business. The casual mockery that had seemed so entertaining to his audience was beginning to look like potential interference with classified operations, with implications that could extend far beyond social media embarrassment. Wade Brennan's expression showed the growing realization that his authority over the training exercise had not just been superseded, but potentially compromised his entire career trajectory. Command personnel were treating the situation with the kind of gravity reserved for significant security incidents, suggesting that his harassment of Sage might have violated protocols he had not even known existed. Torres moved to Morrison's side, his expression showing the concern of someone who understood the implications of the developing situation. "Sir, the consultant demonstrated advanced weapons proficiency during initial evaluation. Performance levels suggested specialized training consistent with special operations background." Morrison nodded, unsurprised by the confirmation. "Master Chief, I need you to coordinate with arriving security personnel to ensure all witnesses are properly debriefed. This situation requires careful handling to minimize operational compromise." The instruction carried implications that made everyone present understand they had become witnesses to events that existed in the classified world of special operations and intelligence activities. Their casual entertainment had intersected with serious military business in ways that none of them had anticipated or were prepared to handle. Jace Carver found himself in an increasingly uncomfortable position as he realized that his fabricated story about shared selection experiences with Sage was about to be examined by personnel with access to detailed background information. His lies, which had seemed like harmless enhancement of entertainment value, were becoming potential falsification of official statements with serious career implications. The morning sun continued climbing higher, but the shadows cast by the expanding security operation seemed to deepen rather than diminish. What had started as routine training observation was evolving into something that felt more like the beginning of a complex investigation, with implications that extended far beyond the Naval Special Warfare Center. Advanced personnel began establishing a secure communications center, using equipment that spoke of significant technological capability and official backing. Their movements were efficient and professional, suggesting extensive experience with situations that required rapid deployment of classified operational support. "Ma'am," Morrison addressed Sage again, "higher authority has been briefed on the situation and is en route for direct consultation. Until they arrive, I need to ensure your security and minimize further operational compromise." Sage acknowledged his concern with a slight nod, but her attention seemed increasingly focused on the tactical situation developing around them. Her awareness of the expanding security perimeter and arriving personnel suggested familiarity with operational protocols that went far beyond civilian consultation experience. Knox watched the proceedings with growing apprehension as he realized that his pursuit of viral content had intersected with military activities that carried serious security implications. The thousands of viewers who had watched his live stream had witnessed something that might have compromised ongoing operations or revealed information that was supposed to remain classified. The assembled SEALs found themselves relegated to the status of witnesses rather than participants, their elite training and classified clearances insufficient for involvement in whatever protocols were being implemented around Sage's situation. The woman they had been mocking was clearly connected to operations that existed at security levels beyond their access. Morrison's secure communication device activated with the distinctive tone of encrypted priority traffic. His conversation was brief and conducted in the careful language of someone reporting to superior authority on sensitive matters. When he concluded the call, his expression showed the gravity of someone who had received significant guidance. "Understood, sir," Morrison finished the call, turning his attention back to the assembled group. "Higher authority will arrive within 30 minutes for direct consultation. Until then, this facility remains under enhanced security protocols." The announcement confirmed what everyone present was beginning to understand, that Sage's presence at the training facility was connected to operations or assessments that reached into the highest levels of military command structure. Her harassment had not just been inappropriate, but potentially constituted interference with classified activities. Torres approached Morrison with the respectful deference appropriate to the developing situation. "Sir, should we continue with planned training exercises or suspend all activities pending resolution?" Morrison considered the question with the practical wisdom of someone who understood operational security requirements. All training activities are suspended until further notice. Personnel will remain available for debriefing as required by investigating authority. The decision effectively confirmed that the situation had moved far beyond routine training incidents into territory that required careful handling by personnel with appropriate clearances and expertise. The casual entertainment that had started the morning was revealing itself as potential compromise of serious military activities. Wade found himself contemplating the career implications of his role in harassing someone who was clearly connected to classified operations at the highest levels of military authority. His confident assertions about civilian inadequacy were beginning to look like profound misunderstanding of the situation he had been dealing with. The plot is thickening, and I can see you're hooked on this incredible story. If you want to see how this confrontation escalates, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You absolutely don't want to miss what happens next. The secure perimeter continued expanding as additional personnel arrived with equipment that suggested significant technological capability and official backing. These were specialists whose presence indicated that the situation was being treated with the kind of gravity reserved for events with potential national security implications. Knox realized that his social media empire had just collided with the classified world of military operations in ways that could have serious legal consequences. The entertainment value that had driven his live stream was being overshadowed by the reality that he might have broadcast information that was supposed to remain protected. Jace's fabricated narrative about shared selection experiences with Sage was beginning to feel like a massive error in judgment as he contemplated the possibility that investigators with access to detailed personnel records would examine every statement he had made. His lies were transitioning from harmless entertainment enhancement to potential falsification of official information. The morning air carried the sound of additional aircraft approaching the facility, their engine signatures suggesting military transport rather than routine aviation traffic. The expanding response was beginning to resemble a major security operation rather than investigation of a training incident. Morrison received another encrypted communication, this one longer and more detailed than previous contacts. His responses were carefully measured, suggesting he was being briefed on aspects of the situation that had not been apparent to anyone present during the initial confrontation. "Copy that, sir," Morrison concluded the communication, his expression showing increased urgency. "Higher authority is accelerating timeline due to operational considerations. We need to prepare for immediate consultation rather than planned 30-minute delay." The announcement sent ripples of tension through the assembled personnel as they realized the situation was developing faster than anyone had anticipated. Whatever protocols were being implemented around Sage's presence required immediate attention from command authority that operated at the highest levels of military hierarchy. Sage herself seemed unsurprised by the acceleration, her posture showing the calm readiness of someone who understood operational tempo and had experience with rapidly changing tactical situations. Her awareness of the expanding security operation suggested familiarity with protocols that existed in the classified world of special operations. Torres found himself studying the arriving personnel with professional interest, noting equipment and procedures that spoke of significant capability and specialized training. These were not routine security personnel, but specialists whose presence suggested the situation had implications that extended far beyond normal military administrative activities. The sound of rotor blades announced the arrival of military transport that had been diverted to provide immediate consultation capability. The aircraft's approach was controlled and professional, suggesting coordination with air traffic systems and approval at the highest levels of command authority. Knox watched the expanding operation with growing apprehension as he realized that his pursuit of viral entertainment had intersected with military activities that operated in the classified world of special operations and intelligence. The casual mockery that had driven his content was revealing itself as potential interference with serious national security activities. Professional military contractors like Sage require comprehensive liability coverage and specialized insurance policies that protect against high-risk operational scenarios. Elite personnel need financial planning services that understand the unique challenges of classified work, including asset protection strategies and emergency funding access for rapid deployment situations requiring immediate capital mobilization. The arriving aircraft settled onto the facility's helicopter pad with practiced precision, its crew demonstrating the kind of tests come professional competence that spoke of extensive experience with sensitive transportation requirements. The passengers who emerged carried themselves with the unmistakable bearing of senior command authority. Admiral Michael Pierce stepped from the aircraft, wearing service dress blues that reflected decades of distinguished service in the most demanding environments the military could offer. At 58, he carried himself with the assured competence of someone who had commanded operations that officially never happened, and made decisions where failure meant global consequences. Pierce's presence immediately shifted the entire dynamic of the situation, his command authority superseding all local protocols and establishing new parameters for how the incident would be managed. His eyes swept the assembled personnel with tactical assessment before settling on Sage with an expression that mixed concern, recognition, and what appeared to be professional respect. Morrison snapped to attention with parade ground precision, his response automatic and complete. "Admiral Pierce, sir. Security protocols have been implemented pending your arrival. Operational compromise appears limited but requires immediate assessment." Pierce acknowledged Morrison's report with the kind of economical gesture that spoke of extensive experience with crisis management and operational security. His attention remained focused on Sage, as if he were evaluating the extent of compromise and determining appropriate response protocols. "Master Sergeant Holloway," Pierce said, his voice carrying the weight of official recognition and command authority. The title hit the assembled SEALs like a physical shock, forcing immediate reassessment of everything they thought they understood about the woman they had been harassing. Sage straightened to attention, with movements that spoke of years of military discipline and respect for command authority. "Admiral Pierce, sir. Operational status compromised, but intelligence gathering objectives partially achieved prior to exposure." The exchange confirmed what several people had begun to suspect, that Sage was not a civilian consultant, but an active military operative, whose mission at the facility had been compromised by circumstances beyond her control. Her harassment had not been inappropriate treatment of civilian oversight, but potential interference with classified military operations. Knox found himself contemplating the legal implications of his live stream as he realized that his audience had witnessed interactions involving classified personnel and potentially sensitive information. The entertainment value that had driven his content was being overshadowed by serious questions about information security and operational compromise. Wade's expression showed the growing realization that his confident assertions about civilian inadequacy had been profoundly wrong in ways that could have serious career implications. The woman he had dismissed as a diversity hire was clearly connected to operations that existed at the highest levels of military authority and classification. Pierce turned to address the assembled personnel with the kind of command presence that made immediate attention automatic. "This incident involves classified personnel conducting authorized assessment activities," he announced formally. "All witnesses will be debriefed through appropriate channels to ensure operational security is maintained." The statement confirmed what everyone present was beginning to understand, that they had been witnesses to events that existed in the classified world of special operations and intelligence activities. Their casual entertainment had intersected with serious military business in ways that none of them had anticipated. Jace realized that his fabricated story about shared selection experiences with Sage was about to be examined by investigators with access to detailed personnel records and the authority to pursue falsification charges. His lies were transitioning from harmless entertainment to potential criminal activity with serious legal consequences. Torres approached Pierce with the respectful deference appropriate to his rank and the gravity of the situation. "Sir, the operative demonstrated advanced capabilities during initial assessment. Performance levels confirmed specialized training consistent with classified background." Pierce nodded, unsurprised by the confirmation. "Master Chief, her capabilities are well documented through appropriate channels. The concern is operational compromise and potential security implications of public exposure." The exchange revealed that Sage's presence at the facility was part of ongoing operations that had been carefully planned and authorized at the highest levels of military command. Her harassment had not just been inappropriate, but constituted potential interference with classified activities. Knox's confiscated phone represented thousands of viewers who had witnessed interactions involving classified personnel, creating information security challenges that would require careful management to prevent further operational compromise. The viral nature of his content had transformed a local incident into a potential national security concern. Morrison found himself responsible for managing a security situation that had evolved far beyond routine training incidents into territory that required expertise in operational security and classified personnel protection. His authority was being guided by protocols designed for events with potential intelligence implications. The morning sun had climbed higher, but the gravity of the developing situation seemed to cast longer shadows across the training facility. What had started as casual mockery was revealing itself as intersection with the classified world of special operations and national security activities. Admiral Pierce produced a secure communication device and initiated contact with higher command authority through encrypted channels that bypassed normal military communications systems. His conversation was brief but intense, conducted in language that avoided specifics while conveying essential information to properly cleared personnel. "Understood," Pierce concluded the call, his expression showing the weight of someone who had received significant guidance from the highest levels of national security authority. Operational parameters are being revised to address compromise and minimize further exposure. The announcement confirmed that SAGE's mission had been significantly affected by the morning's events, requiring adaptation of protocols and objectives that had been carefully planned at levels of authority that operated beyond normal military command structures. SAGE herself seemed prepared for the operational adjustments that Pierce's announcement implied, her posture showing the calm readiness of someone with extensive experience in mission adaptation and protocol revision. Her comfort with changing circumstances suggested background in operations that required constant tactical flexibility. The assembled SEALs found themselves witnesses to events that clearly exceeded their security clearances and understanding, their elite status insufficient for involvement in protocols that existed in the classified world of special operations and intelligence activities. "This is getting intense, and I know you're wondering what that wolf tattoo really means. Show some love with a like if you're as shocked as I am. The reveal that's coming will change everything you think you know about SAGE." Pierce turned his attention to the specific details of operational compromise, his expression showing the concern of someone who understood the implications of classified exposure in public forums. "Master Sergeant, I need assessment of intelligence value versus compromise risk for continuation of mission objectives." SAGE's response was immediate and professional, delivered with the kind of tactical precision that spoke of extensive experience in operational reporting. "Sir, facility security assessment revealed multiple vulnerabilities and training protocol deficiencies. Intelligence gathered prior to compromise provides sufficient data for preliminary recommendations." The exchange confirmed that her presence at the facility had been related to security evaluation rather than routine consultation. Her expertise focused on identifying weaknesses and recommending improvements in ways that required classified access and specialized knowledge. Knox realized that his live stream audience had witnessed discussions involving facility security and operational assessment, information that might have compromised ongoing activities or revealed vulnerabilities that were supposed to remain protected. The entertainment value that had driven his content was being overshadowed by serious security concerns. Wade found himself contemplating the possibility that his harassment of SAGE had not just been inappropriate, but had potentially interfered with authorized security assessment activities. His confident assertions about civilian inadequacy were beginning to look like profound misunderstanding of classified operations. Torres approached Pierce with information that had become relevant given the developing situation. "Sir, during initial evaluation, the operative demonstrated weapons proficiency and tactical knowledge consistent with advanced special operations training. Performance exceeded standard military protocols." Pierce acknowledged the information without surprise, his expression suggesting that SAGE's capabilities were well documented through appropriate channels. "Master Chief, her qualifications are established through classified evaluation systems. The immediate concern is managing exposure and minimizing operational impact." The statement revealed that SAGE's background included formal assessment and documentation at levels that existed beyond normal military personnel systems. Her capabilities evaluated through protocols designed for classified operations and special assignments. Morrison found himself managing a security situation that required coordination with multiple agencies and command structures. His local authority, guided by protocols that reached into the highest levels of national security apparatus. The routine training exercise had become intersection with classified operations. The expanding security perimeter continued growing as additional personnel arrived with specialized equipment and expertise, their presence confirming that the situation was being treated with the gravity appropriate to events with potential intelligence implications and operational consequences. Knox's social media empire had collided with the classified world in ways that created information security challenges extending far beyond his immediate circumstances. The viral nature of modern communications had transformed local incident into potential national security concern, requiring careful management. Jace contemplated the legal implications of his fabricated statements as he realized that investigators with access to detailed records would examine every claim he had made about shared experiences with Sage. His lies were transitioning from entertainment enhancement to potential criminal falsification. The morning air carried the sound of additional aircraft and vehicles as the response continued expanding, suggesting that the situation was being treated as a significant security incident requiring resources from multiple agencies and command structures. Pierce received another encrypted communication, this one apparently providing updated guidance on management of the developing situation. His responses were measured and professional, suggesting coordination with authority that operated at the highest levels of national security apparatus. "Copy that," Pierce concluded the communication, turning his attention back to the immediate tactical situation. Operational security protocols are being implemented to minimize further compromise and protect ongoing activities. The announcement confirmed that Sage's exposure had affected operations beyond her immediate mission, requiring protective measures for related activities and personnel that existed in the classified world of special operations and intelligence work. But the most dramatic moment was yet to come, as circumstances beyond anyone's control were about to force the exposure of information that would transform everyone's understanding of what they had witnessed. The careful operational security that had protected Sage's identity was about to be shattered by events that no amount of planning could have prevented. Knox, despite having his phone confiscated, had become the focal point for information security concerns that extended far beyond social media entertainment. His audience of thousands had witnessed interactions involving classified personnel, creating exposure that would require careful management to prevent further compromise. The assembled SEALs were beginning to understand that they had been witnesses to intersection between routine military training and the classified world of special operations, their harassment of Sage constituting potential interference with authorized activities that operated beyond their understanding. Wade's confidence in his authority and judgment was eroding as he realized that his treatment of Sage had been based on fundamental misunderstanding of her status and mission. The woman he had dismissed as civilian inadequacy was clearly connected to operations that existed at levels far above his clearance and experience. Torres found himself managing coordination between local security and arriving specialists, his experience and professionalism essential for maintaining operational security while allowing necessary investigation and assessment activities to proceed. The facility itself had been transformed from routine training environment into secure operational area, with protocols implemented that spoke of serious security concerns and classified personnel protection requirements. The casual atmosphere of morning training had been replaced by controlled tension of security incident management. Pierce's presence commanded immediate respect and attention from everyone present, his authority superseding all local protocols and establishing new parameters for how the situation would be resolved. His concern for operational security was balanced by necessary investigation of what had occurred. Sage remained positioned near the center of the expanding security operation, her professional composure unchanged despite the dramatic transformation of her circumstances. Her comfort with the developing protocols suggested extensive experience with operational security and mission adaptation. But the morning's events had created momentum that was about to culminate in revelation that would shatter the careful protection of information that had been maintained for years. The intersection of routine training harassment with classified operations was about to produce consequences that no amount of security protocols could prevent. The sound of approaching vehicles announced the arrival of additional personnel whose presence would escalate the situation beyond anyone's ability to control through normal security measures. The casual entertainment that had started the morning was evolving into something that would require extraordinary measures to manage. As Pierce coordinated the expanding response with multiple agencies and command structures, one fact became clear to everyone present. They were about to witness events that would transform their understanding of military operations and the people who conducted them in the classified world of special operations. The most dramatic revelations were still to come, and they would prove that the morning's harassment had intersected with operations far more significant than anyone present could have imagined. The real story of Master Sergeant Sage Holloway was about to begin, and it would shatter every assumption about civilian consultants and military oversight that had driven the morning's entertainment. The tension reached critical mass when Knox, despite his confiscated phone, made a desperate decision that would trigger the chain of events everyone present would remember for the rest of their careers. His entrepreneurial instincts, combined with growing panic about the legal implications of his live stream, drove him to attempt recovery of his device from the secure equipment area. "I need that phone back," Knox announced loudly, his voice carrying the desperation of someone who realized his social media empire was collapsing in real time. "My audience is waiting for resolution. They deserve to know what's happening here." Morrison moved to intercept Knox's advance toward the secure area, but the sudden movement triggered defensive responses from multiple personnel who had been maintaining tactical awareness throughout the developing situation. The careful control that had characterized the security operation was about to be shattered by Knox's panicked miscalculation. Sage, positioned near the center of the security perimeter, found herself directly in Knox's path as he attempted to reach the equipment area. Her training kicked in automatically, defensive positioning and threat assessment taking precedence over operational security concerns that had governed her behavior throughout the morning. Knox's massive frame collided with Sage's defensive stance, with the force of someone who had never learned to control his physical aggression. His hands grasped at her military green shirt in an attempt to push past her position, his fingers catching the deep V-neck fabric with enough force to compromise the garment's structural integrity. The sound of tearing fabric cut through the controlled tension like a gunshot, followed immediately by complete silence as everyone present processed what had just been exposed. Sage's torn shirt had revealed the intricate wolf tattoo that covered her right shoulder and upper chest, its detailed artwork visible to everyone within 50 feet of the confrontation. The tattoo was not decorative body art, but a complex insignia that spoke of specialized military service and classified operations. The wolf's head was rendered with fierce precision, its eyes seeming to stare with predatory intelligence that commanded immediate attention. But it was the symbols worked into the design that caused Admiral Pierce to freeze mid-sentence and Master Chief Torres to step backward in recognition. Military unit markings were integrated into the wolf's fur with such skill that they appeared to be natural elements of the design, while serving as identification for those trained to recognize classified insignia. Numbers and symbols that existed only in the most restricted military databases were displayed with artistic beauty that concealed their deadly significance. Knox stepped backward, his desperation replaced by shock as he realized he had exposed something that was clearly far more significant than simple body art. The wolf's fierce gaze seemed to track his movement, its presence commanding attention and respect in ways that no civilian tattoo could achieve. Pierce's expression showed immediate recognition of the insignia and its implications. His command authority now focused on managing exposure of information that was supposed to remain protected at the highest levels of military classification. "Clear the area immediately," he ordered, his voice carrying the weight of someone who understood the severity of what had just occurred. But the damage was already done. Every person present had seen the wolf tattoo and its integrated military markings, exposure that would require extensive debriefing and security measures to prevent further compromise of classified operations and personnel identification systems. Morrison snapped into action, with the efficiency of someone trained in crisis management, coordinating immediate security protocols while ensuring that Sage received appropriate medical attention for her torn clothing and potential injury from Knox's assault. Torres approached Pierce with the respectful urgency of someone who understood they were dealing with a major security incident. "Sir, the insignia has been exposed to approximately 20 personnel with varying clearance levels. Immediate containment protocols are required." Pierce nodded grimly, his expression showing the weight of someone who understood the implications of classified exposure in uncontrolled environments. "Master Chief, implement full security lockdown. No personnel leave this facility until debriefing is complete." The order confirmed what everyone present was beginning to understand. They had become witnesses to exposure of information that existed in the classified world of special operations their presence requiring security measures that would affect their immediate future and potentially their careers. Sage stood in the center of the expanding security response, her torn shirt partially concealing the wolf tattoo, but unable to hide its presence entirely. Her professional composure remained intact despite the dramatic compromise of operational security that Knox's actions had triggered. Wade found himself staring at the partially visible insignia, with growing realization that his harassment of Sage had been directed at someone whose military service existed at classification levels he had never imagined. The woman he had dismissed as civilian inadequacy was clearly connected to operations that operated beyond his understanding. Knox's desperate attempt to recover his phone had created the very exposure that all security protocols had been designed to prevent, his panicked actions triggering revelation of information that would require extraordinary measures to contain and manage. Jace's fabricated story about shared selection experiences was beginning to look not just inaccurate, but potentially criminal, as he contemplated the possibility that he had lied about service alongside someone whose actual background existed in the classified world of special operations. The wolf tattoo commanded attention, even when partially concealed, its fierce presence and integrated military markings speaking of service and sacrifice that existed beyond normal military experience. The insignia was clearly designed for recognition by those trained to understand its significance. Pierce approached Sage with the careful respect of someone who understood they were dealing with classified personnel, whose exposure required immediate damage control. Master Sergeant, medical attention is available if you require assessment of potential injury from the assault. Sage's response was immediate and professional, her training taking precedence over personal concerns. Sir, no medical attention required. Operational security takes priority over minor discomfort. Her composure under stress spoke of extensive experience with crisis management and operational adaptation. Morrison found himself coordinating security responses that extended far beyond normal training incident protocols, his authority guided by classification systems and operational security requirements that reached into the highest levels of military command structure. The morning sun caught the edges of the wolf tattoo as Sage moved, its artistic detail becoming more apparent as different angles revealed the sophisticated integration of military markings with natural design elements. The insignia was clearly the work of specialists who understood both artistic technique and security requirements. Torres studied the exposed insignia with professional interest, his experience allowing him to recognize elements that spoke of specialized units and classified operations. The wolf's fierce gaze and integrated symbols suggested military service that existed beyond normal special operations experience. Knox realized that his actions had not just compromised his social media empire, but had potentially exposed classified information that carried serious legal implications. The wolf tattoo was clearly more than decorative art, its military significance requiring security measures that extended far beyond civilian understanding. The assembled SEALs found themselves witnesses to exposure of insignia that existed in the classified world they had trained to enter but never fully accessed, their elite status insufficient for understanding the full implications of what they had seen. Wade's confidence in his military knowledge and authority was crumbling as he realized that the wolf tattoo represented service and classification that existed far above his experience and clearance level. His harassment of Sage had been directed at someone whose background exceeded his understanding. Pierce received encrypted communications that confirmed the severity of the exposure and provided guidance on containment protocols. His responses coordinated with authority that operated at the highest levels of national security apparatus. Understood, Pierce concluded his communication, turning his attention to the immediate tactical situation. Full security lockdown is now in effect. All personnel will remain available for comprehensive debriefing through appropriate channels. The announcement confirmed that the wolf tattoo's exposure had triggered protocols designed for major security incidents, its significance requiring measures that would affect everyone present for the immediate future and potentially their careers. Advanced Tactical Training Certification programs offer specialized courses in close quarters combat, weapons proficiency, and strategic operations analysis. These elite educational institutions provide classified curriculum designed for military professionals, seeking advancement in special operations fields, including legal consultation services for personnel operating under complex jurisdictional requirements and security clearance protocols. Morrison coordinated with arriving specialists who brought equipment and expertise for managing classified exposure incidents, their presence confirming that the wolf tattoo represented information that required extraordinary security measures to protect. Knox's assault on Sage had created the very compromise that all operational security had been designed to prevent, his desperation triggering revelation of insignia that would require extensive investigation and damage assessment to manage properly. The wolf tattoo continued commanding attention even as security personnel worked to minimize further exposure, its fierce presence and military markings speaking of service that existed in the classified world of special operations and intelligence activities. Torres approached Pierce with tactical assessment of the exposure incident, his experience essential for understanding the implications of classified insignia revelation in uncontrolled environment with multiple witnesses of varying clearance levels. "Sir," Torres reported formally, "insignia exposure appears limited to current personnel with no external recording capability remaining active. Immediate containment appears successful pending comprehensive debriefing." Pierce acknowledged the assessment while maintaining focus on broader security implications that extended beyond immediate exposure control. "Master Chief, the significance of this particular insignia requires coordination with multiple agencies. Containment is only the first phase of necessary response." The statement revealed that the wolf tattoo represented not just classified military service, but operations that involved coordination between agencies and command structures that existed at the highest levels of national security apparatus. Sage remained positioned near the center of the security operation, her professional composure intact despite the dramatic compromise of operational security that would affect her mission and potentially her future assignments. Her comfort with crisis management spoke of extensive experience with operational adaptation. Wade found himself contemplating the career implications of his role in harassing someone whose military service existed at classification levels that required extraordinary security measures to protect. His confident assertions about civilian inadequacy were beginning to look like profound error in judgment. Knox realized that his desperate attempt to recover his social media empire had intersected with the classified world in ways that created legal jeopardy, extending far beyond social media consequences. The wolf tattoo's exposure carried implications that would require legal representation and security clearance. Jace contemplated the criminal implications of his fabricated statements about shared service, alongside someone whose actual background existed in operations that required the highest levels of security clearance and operational secrecy. The morning that had started with casual mockery and live stream entertainment was revealing itself as intersection with classified operations that operated beyond normal military experience. The wolf tattoo serving as visible proof of service that existed in the shadows of national security. Pierce coordinated expanding response protocols with multiple agencies while ensuring that Sage received appropriate support for managing the compromise of operational security that Knox's assault had triggered. His authority reached into command structures that operated beyond normal military hierarchy. Morrison found himself responsible for facility security during a classified exposure incident that required coordination with specialists whose presence confirmed the severity of what had occurred. The routine training environment had become secure operational area requiring extraordinary measures. The wolf tattoo's fierce gaze seemed to command attention from everyone present, its artistic detail and integrated military markings speaking of service and sacrifice that existed beyond their understanding. The insignia was clearly designed for recognition by those trained to understand its deadly significance. Torres studied the exposed markings with professional interest, his experience allowing him to recognize elements that spoke of operations conducted in the classified world of special activities and intelligence work. The wolf's presence commanded respect, even from elite military personnel. Knox's assault had triggered the very exposure that sophisticated operational security had been designed to prevent, his panicked actions creating security incident that would require extensive investigation and damage assessment to manage properly. But the full implications of the wolf tattoo's exposure were yet to be revealed, as specialists with access to classified databases began matching the visible markings with operational records that existed in the most restricted military files. The insignia would prove to represent service far more extraordinary than anyone present could have imagined. The careful protection of Sage's identity and mission had been shattered by Knox's desperate miscalculation, but the revelation would prove that her background included operations and achievements that existed at the pinnacle of military service and national security activities. Captain Reed Morrison found himself staring at the wolf tattoo with growing recognition that went far beyond simple military insignia appreciation. His own classified background included briefings on special operations units that officially didn't exist, and the markings integrated into Sage's tattoo matched descriptions from some of the most restricted files he had ever accessed. Admiral Pierce, Morrison's voice carried the urgent respect of someone who had recognized something of extraordinary significance. Sir, the insignia markings appear consistent with Shadow Unit identification protocols. Request immediate verification through classified databases. Pierce's expression showed immediate understanding of Morrison's implication. His command authority now focused on managing exposure of information that existed at the highest levels of military classification. The wolf tattoo was not just special operations insignia, but identification for personnel who operated beyond normal military structures. Captain Morrison, initiate secure database verification immediately, Pierce ordered, his voice carrying the weight of someone who understood they were dealing with potential exposure of the military's most classified operational assets. Full spectrum analysis of visible markings against restricted identification systems. The request confirmed what several people were beginning to suspect, that Sage's background included service in units that existed beyond normal special operations, her capabilities and mission operating in the classified world of activities that officially never happened. Torres approached the secure database terminal with the professional efficiency of someone trained in classified information systems. His access codes providing entry to restricted files that contained identification protocols for the military's most sensitive operations. Knox watched the database search with growing apprehension as he realized that his assault had not just exposed military insignia, but potentially revealed information about operations that existed beyond public knowledge or civilian understanding. The legal implications were beginning to extend far beyond social media consequences. Wade found himself contemplating the possibility that his harassment had been directed at someone whose military service included operations that existed at classification levels requiring presidential authorization and congressional oversight. His confidence in military knowledge was being shattered by exposure to realities beyond his experience. The database search progressed through multiple security layers, each level revealing additional information about the significance of the wolf tattoo's markings. Torres' expression showed increasing concern as restricted files confirmed the extraordinary nature of what they were dealing with. Sir, Torres reported to Pierce with formal precision, database confirmation indicates Shadow Unit 7 operational insignia. Classification level requires presidential notification for exposure incidents involving civilian witnesses. The statement hit everyone present like a physical shock, confirming that Sage's background included service and operations that existed at the highest levels of national security classification. Her harassment had not been inappropriate treatment of civilian oversight, but potential compromise of presidential-level classified activities. Pierce's secure communication device activated immediately with encrypted priority traffic that bypassed normal military channels, his coordination reaching directly into the White House Situation Room and National Security Council protocols designed for managing exposure of the most sensitive operational assets. Knox realized that his social media venture had intersected with operations that required presidential-level security clearance. His live stream audience having witnessed interactions involving personnel whose existence was protected by the highest levels of national security classification. Jace contemplated the criminal implications of fabricating service history alongside someone whose actual background included presidential-level classified operations, his lies potentially constituting espionage-related crimes that carried sentences measured in decades rather than years. The wolf tattoo commanded new levels of respect and attention as its significance became clear to everyone present, the fierce design serving as identification for service that existed at the pinnacle of military capability and national security priority. Morrison found himself coordinating security protocols that reached into the highest levels of government, his facility becoming the center of security incident that required coordination between military command and civilian leadership at presidential levels. Torres continued database verification while maintaining operational security, his access revealing additional details about Shadow Unit 7 that confirmed the extraordinary nature of Sage's background and mission. The information was restricted to personnel with presidential-level clearance. Admiral, Torres reported with increased urgency, additional database information indicates operative has conducted missions in 7 classified theaters with presidential authorization. Current assignment involves facility security assessment under National Security Council directive. The revelation transformed everyone's understanding of the morning's events, confirming that Sage's presence had been authorized at the highest levels of government for assessment activities that went far beyond routine military consultation. Pierce's coordination with Washington continued through encrypted channels that provided direct communication with National Security Council personnel responsible for managing Shadow Unit operations and protecting classified assets from exposure. Knox's assault had triggered exposure of information that existed at the highest levels of government classification. His desperate attempt to recover social media content creating security incident that would require presidential-level damage assessment and response coordination. Wade realized that his confident assertions about civilian inadequacy had been directed at someone whose military service included missions authorized by the President of the United States and conducted under National Security Council oversight. His harassment constituted potential interference with presidential directives. The assembled SEALs found themselves witnesses to revelation of military service that existed beyond their highest aspirations. Sage's background, including operations that officially never happened, but were essential for national security at the highest levels. Sage remained composed despite the dramatic compromise of operational security, her training and experience preparing her for exposure situations that required immediate adaptation of mission parameters and security protocols. The morning sun continued climbing higher, but the gravity of the developing situation created an atmosphere of controlled tension that spoke of intersection between routine military training and the classified world of presidential-level special operations. Pierce received updated guidance from Washington that confirmed the severity of the exposure and provided direction for managing security incident involving Shadow Unit personnel and civilian witnesses with varying clearance levels. Understood, Pierce concluded his communication with National Security Council personnel, turning his attention to the immediate tactical situation. Presidential notification has been completed. Full-spectrum damage assessment is now in progress. The announcement confirmed that Knox's assault had triggered security protocols that reached directly into the Oval Office, the Wolf Tattoo's exposure requiring assessment and response at the highest levels of government authority. Morrison coordinated with arriving specialists who brought presidential-level security equipment and protocols for managing classified exposure incidents involving Shadow Unit personnel, their presence confirming the extraordinary significance of what had occurred. Knox contemplated the legal implications of assaulting someone whose military service was protected by presidential-level classification, his actions potentially constituting crimes against national security that would require federal prosecution and lengthy imprisonment. Torres maintained database access while coordinating with specialists whose clearance levels exceeded his own. The Shadow Unit files revealing service record that existed at the pinnacle of military achievement and national security contribution. The Wolf Tattoo's fierce gaze seemed to command even greater respect as its full significance became clear, the artistic design serving as identification for service that represented the ultimate expression of military dedication and national sacrifice. What an incredible transformation. If this story gave you chills, make sure to like and subscribe for more amazing military stories. Drop a comment below about which moment shocked you the most. Pierce approached Sage with the formal respect appropriate to someone whose service record included presidential-level classified operations. His command authority now focused on providing appropriate support for managing the compromise of her operational security. Master Sergeant Holloway, Pierce said formally, Washington has been briefed on the exposure incident. You have full support for any operational adjustments required by compromise of your mission parameters. Sage's response carried the professional precision of someone with extensive experience in operational adaptation and security protocol management. Sir, intelligence objectives have been achieved despite exposure complications. Assessment data remains viable for mission completion. The exchange confirmed that her presence at the facility had successfully gathered information required for security evaluation, her professional competence allowing mission objectives to be achieved despite the dramatic compromise of her operational security. Knox found himself at the center of a security incident that had escalated to presidential-level attention, his assault on classified personnel creating legal jeopardy that would require federal investigation and prosecution through specialized national security courts. Wade contemplated the career-ending implications of harassing someone whose service included missions that existed beyond his security clearance and understanding, his actions potentially constituting interference with presidential directives and national security operations. Morrison coordinated facility security, while specialists implemented presidential-level protocols for managing classified exposure incidents. The routine training environment transformed into secure operational area requiring extraordinary security measures. The morning's events had revealed intersection between casual military harassment and the classified world of presidential-level special operations. Knox's assault triggering revelation of service that existed at the pinnacle of national security priority and government classification. Torres maintained coordination with specialists whose clearance exceeded his own while ensuring operational security for ongoing damage assessment, his professional competence essential for managing security incident of unprecedented scope and sensitivity. The wolf tattoo represented service and sacrifice that existed beyond normal military experience, its exposure requiring security measures that reached into the highest levels of government authority and national security apparatus. Pierce's coordination with Washington continued through channels that provided direct communication with personnel responsible for shadow unit operations and protecting classified assets from further exposure, his authority guided by presidential-level protocols. Knox's desperate attempt to recover his social media empire had created the very exposure that sophisticated operational security had been designed to prevent, his actions triggering security incident that would affect his life in ways he was only beginning to understand. Jace contemplated the criminal implications of his fabricated statements about service alongside someone whose actual background included presidential-level classified operations, his lies potentially constituting crimes that would require federal prosecution and lengthy imprisonment. The assembled SEALs found themselves witnesses to military service that existed beyond their understanding. Sage's background representing achievement and dedication that officially never happened, but was essential for protecting national security at the highest levels. Sage's professional composure remained intact, despite the dramatic transformation of her circumstances, her training and experience providing the skills necessary for managing operational compromise and adapting mission parameters to changing tactical situations. Morrison found himself responsible for facility security during presidential-level classified exposure incident. His coordination with specialists whose authority exceeded local command structures confirming the extraordinary significance of what had occurred. The wolf tattoo commanded respect and attention from everyone present, its fierce design serving as visible proof of service that existed in the shadows of national security where the most dangerous missions were conducted by the most capable operators. Torres studied additional database information that revealed the scope of Sage's operational history, her service record, including missions that had shaped international events in ways that would never be publicly acknowledged or understood. Knox realized that his assault had not just compromised social media content, but had triggered federal investigation of crimes against national security, his actions creating legal jeopardy that would require specialized defense and likely result in lengthy federal imprisonment. The morning that had started with routine harassment and live stream entertainment was concluding with revelation of military service that existed at the pinnacle of national capability and government classification, the intersection forever changing everyone present. Pierce received final guidance from Washington that confirmed damage assessment protocols and provided direction for managing the long-term implications of shadow unit exposure, his coordination ensuring appropriate protection for classified operations and personnel. But the most profound transformation was yet to come, as the implications of the morning's revelation rippled through the military community and beyond, creating changes that would affect careers, policies, and understanding of what military service could represent at its highest levels. The consequences were only beginning to unfold as personnel with presidential-level authority arrived to manage the situation and ensure that the exposure of shadow unit operations was contained and managed through appropriate channels. The casual harassment that had started the morning was revealing itself as intersection with the most classified operations in military history. Knox found himself facing federal charges that included assault on classified personnel, interference with national security operations, and potential espionage-related crimes that carried sentences measured in decades. His social media empire had collided with the classified world in ways that would destroy his life and freedom. Wade's military career was effectively over as investigators examined his role in harassing someone whose service included presidential-level classified operations. His confident assertions about civilian inadequacy had been directed at the most elite operator in military history. Morrison coordinated the expanding federal investigation while maintaining facility security, his professional competence essential for managing security incident that had escalated to the highest levels of government attention and national security priority. The wolf tattoo had revealed service that existed beyond normal understanding, its exposure creating ripple effects that would change military policies and operational security protocols for protecting classified personnel in routine environments. Jace faced federal prosecution for fabricating service history alongside shadow unit personnel, his lies constituting crimes against national security that would result in lengthy federal imprisonment and destruction of his military career. Torres found himself coordinating with federal specialists whose authority and clearance exceeded anything in his previous experience. The professional competence essential for managing the transition from routine training to presidential-level security incident. Pierce's coordination with Washington ensured appropriate support for Sage while managing the broader implications of shadow unit exposure, his authority guided by protocols designed to protect the most classified operations in military history. The assembled SEALs faced comprehensive security debriefing and potential career implications for their role in harassing someone whose service existed at the pinnacle of military achievement and national security contribution. Sage's mission had been completed despite operational compromise, her professional competence allowing intelligence objectives to be achieved while adapting to exposure that would require extensive security protocol revision. The morning's events would be studied and analyzed by security specialists for years to come, serving as case study in operational security and the importance of protecting classified personnel from routine harassment and exposure. Knox's livestream audience had witnessed interactions involving presidential-level classified personnel, creating information security challenges that would require extensive federal investigation and potential prosecution of viewers who shared sensitive content. Wade's harassment had interfered with National Security Council directives, his actions constituting potential crimes against national security that would require federal prosecution and likely result in lengthy imprisonment and career destruction. Morrison's facility became the center of federal investigation that reached into the highest levels of government, his coordination with specialists ensuring appropriate management of security incident with presidential-level implications. The wolf tattoo represented service and sacrifice that officially never happened, but was essential for protecting national security, its exposure creating challenges that would affect operational security protocols for years to come. Torres' professional competence had been essential for managing the transition from routine training incident to presidential-level security crisis, his coordination with federal specialists ensuring appropriate protection of classified information and personnel. Pierce's authority had guided the response to shadow unit exposure while ensuring appropriate support for Sage, his coordination with Washington providing the leadership necessary for managing unprecedented security challenge. The consequences of the morning's revelation would ripple through military and government communities for years to come, creating changes in policy, protocol, and understanding that would protect classified personnel from future exposure and harassment. Knox's assault had triggered the exposure of military service that existed at the pinnacle of national capability, his desperate actions creating security incident that would affect his life and freedom in ways he was only beginning to understand. Jace's fabricated statements about service alongside shadow unit personnel had created criminal liability that would result in federal prosecution and lengthy imprisonment, his lies constituting crimes against national security classification. The assembled SEALs had witnessed military service that existed beyond their highest aspirations. Sage's background representing achievement and dedication that officially never happened, but was essential for national security at the highest levels. Wade's confident assertions about military knowledge had been shattered by exposure to operational realities that existed beyond his clearance and understanding, his harassment constituting potential interference with presidential directives. Morrison's coordination had been essential for managing security incident that escalated beyond local authority, his professional competence providing the leadership necessary for transition to federal investigation and presidential-level protocols. The wolf tattoo commanded respect and attention, a symbol of service that existed in the shadows, where the most dangerous missions were conducted by the most capable operators, its exposure creating challenges for protecting future operations. Torres' database access had revealed the extraordinary nature of Sage's background while maintaining operational security, his professional competence essential for coordinating with federal specialists whose authority exceeded his own. Pierce's leadership had guided response to unprecedented security challenge while ensuring appropriate support for classified personnel, his coordination with Washington providing protection for shadow unit operations and assets. The morning's events had transformed routine military training into presidential-level security incident, the intersection of casual harassment with classified operations creating consequences that would affect everyone present for years to come. Knox faced federal charges that would destroy his social media empire and result in lengthy imprisonment, his assault on classified personnel creating legal jeopardy that extended far beyond civilian understanding or experience. Wade's military career faced termination and potential criminal charges for harassing someone whose service included missions authorized at presidential levels, his actions constituting potential interference with national security operations. Jace confronted federal prosecution for fabricating service history alongside shadow unit personnel, his lies creating criminal liability that would result in lengthy federal imprisonment and destruction of his military career and civilian prospects. The consequences were profound and lasting, affecting not just the immediate participants, but creating ripple effects that would change military policy, operational security protocols, and understanding of what military service could represent at its highest levels of classification and capability. The wolf tattoo had revealed service that existed beyond normal comprehension, its exposure creating the need for extraordinary security measures and federal investigation to protect ongoing operations and personnel who served in the shadows of national security. Pierce's final coordination with Washington ensured that Sage received appropriate support, while the broader implications of shadow unit exposure were managed through presidential-level protocols designed to protect the most classified operations in military history. The morning that had started with casual mockery and social media entertainment had concluded with revelation of military service that existed at the pinnacle of national capability and government classification, forever changing everyone present and creating consequences that would affect their lives and careers for years to come. But perhaps most importantly, the exposure had revealed the existence of people who served in ways that officially never happened, protecting national security through sacrifice and dedication that existed beyond public understanding or acknowledgement. Their service measured not in public recognition, but in missions accomplished and threats eliminated in the shadows where freedom was truly defended. The wolf tattoo would continue to command respect as symbol of that service, its fierce gaze serving as reminder that some warriors operated beyond the boundaries of normal military experience, protecting the nation through capabilities and dedication that existed at the highest levels of human achievement and sacrifice. Knox's desperate pursuit of social media fame had intersected with realities that existed far beyond civilian understanding, his assault triggering revelation of service that represented the ultimate expression of military dedication and national commitment. The consequences would continue unfolding for years to come, but the essential truth had been revealed. Some people served in ways that changed history while remaining invisible to those they protected, their existence known only to those with the highest clearances and the gravest responsibilities for national security. Sage Holloway was one of those people, and her exposure would change how the military protected such assets while ensuring their missions continued in the shadows where freedom was truly defended by the most capable warriors in human history. The Wolf Pack had been revealed, and its members would continue their silent vigil, protecting the nation through service that officially never happened, but was essential for the survival of everything worth protecting.